All right, kicking off another show, Zen and Callsigns. I have a special guest to me, Ross Blaine. To me, he was originally Gunnery Sergeant Blaine back in 2007 when I was at OCS. Sir, welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
You were you were somebody that I wanted to get on the show and have a conversation with and record for a while. You've left an indelible mark on, I bet, thousands, maybe more, you tell me, of Marines' lives, and not just Marines' lives. I think a lot of young men who have looked to you as a mentor, and many other different father figure, I don't know, all sorts of different things. And so, well, I don't want to touch on that, but I have a picture. I'll bring it up later as we get in there. But I've got a picture of, like, you're my first salute.
Yeah,
So, and I know you probably got a lot of those, but you're my first salute, and I appreciate that. And that was a
and so
special moment.
Blake, that was an
Yeah.
honor, man. That meant
No.
more to me. You asking me to do that to this
Well,
day was just a tremendous honor. You know what I mean? Like that's something that
well,
you
the
know.
honor is all mine, or the
Yeah,
privilege is all mine. Whatever.
yeah,
Thank you. So, all
yeah.
right. Well, kind of how I like to do it is kind of everybody give a little the background, who they are, where they're from, so a little context to the conversation.
Sure.
But obviously, they know we met in 2007 when you were my platoon sergeant at OCS.
Right.
But if you can
Right.
kind of step it back a little bit from there, that'd be
Sure.
great.
Yeah. So I'm from Miami, Florida, born and raised, the land of the 305. So I'm a big Dolphin, Hurricane, Miami Heat
Yeah.
fan, and growing up down there in the South during those years was definitely challenging. This was like the crack cocaine era. A lot of, my parents are Haitian immigrants. So they came here from Haiti, went to New York in the 60s. And in the 70s, they migrated down to Southwest Miami. And then thus was when I came about and my siblings and, started our life there. There was a lot of things, growing up that a lot of pitfalls that I could have got caught up in. Obviously there was proliferation of drugs, crack cocaine, different things that can really sidetrack any potential of success outside of that environment. And for me, the Marine Corps was a tremendous opportunity to kind of leave that kind of back, that kind of poverty and just situations where temptation to go in the wrong
Yeah.
direction could have presented itself.
I had a question for you there.
Yeah.
So I know you're unique, you're special. Just like, what do you think sets you apart and wanted to take kind of that path less traveled? Because I
Right.
think that there's something, because I know your background and I know you, and so, but you had, maybe, did you have something like inside already, like implanted into you? You thought that kind of
Yeah.
had you on a track.
It was just one of those situations. I think the best thing that ever happened to me was when I joined junior RTC in high school.
Okay.
Um, and the leadership there, I had some really powerful African American instructors that really was able to profoundly impact me in a way that the military was definitely an option that I could be really good at.
Right.
I had some leadership success as a student, and they saw something with me that I didn't see within myself, that I can overachieve, not underachieve. And I think that's something that's always been a goal of mine, no matter what it is, to be a competitor, be a contender in life. And
Yeah.
for me, during that because of the environmental conditions, you know what I mean? I wanted something greater, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
be another statistic out here in the streets. I wanted something more for myself. And that came with tremendous ridicule. That came with tremendous,
Mm.
backlash from family, friends. My decision, but my decision was an independent decision that I didn't care what anyone else thought. I wanted something more for myself. I wanted to get out of that environment and become something more that anyone would expect. And I had plenty of doubters, specifically when you talk about the Marine Corps. Marine Corps, you crazy? Like,
Right.
those guys are crazy. There's a lot of different negative stereotypes of that institution, the military in general. But I didn't care. For me, it was just like, no, I want to be better. I want to travel. I want to get out of Miami and go out there and set my own path in life.
Yeah.
And I'm a person that wants to take on any type of difficult opportunity and show and turn it into an opportunity where I can have success and surpass any expectation. And so I'm goal-oriented. I'm built that way. I'm a goal-oriented person. And that just comes from the tough upbringing and survival skills I learned from a child into adulthood. You know, I grew up with very strict, my Haitian grandmother raised me, my father's mother, and raised me with values of self-reliance, independence, hard work, accountability. She really infused that mentality in me at a very young age. Like, we couldn't go outside and play unless we took care of our chores, you know, and if we didn't get that done, there was some discipline and consequence to that. Just the accountability piece, right? Having a sense of integrity, having a sense of community was important for my grandmother. Right. And so that was something that was important to me. And another thing that I wanted to leverage in pursuing the military, when I was coming to high school, it wasn't so much that I didn't think college was something that was for me at the time. But my father told me, hey, if you're going to join the military, at least go out there and pursue and get your education. And I promised my father, yes, okay, if you give me your support, then that's what I'm going to do. Because my father had left my household going into my senior high school, which, again, had a very, profound effect, not having your father in the household. And he took a contracting job to Haiti to help support the military endeavor there, a JTF mission down there as a translator, which subsequently years later, I was able to join him in 1999 and be a part of that endeavor for a few weeks, which was a really, really extraordinary experience as a young person to see the land of my ancestry and heritage, and seeing the third world poverty of that environment was really eye-opening and disheartening, But nonetheless, those were the driving factors of why I decided to become a Marine, because everybody said I couldn't do it. And I wanted to career with those. Now I had military uncles. I had an uncle that served. My father's younger brother served in the United States Air Force for 20 years. I also had an uncle that served in Vietnam in the Navy. One of my mom's older brother served in the Navy for, I think, 2 or 3 years in Vietnam. So there was a military heritage that I came from, but no one was a Marine. And that attracted me the most when I talked to the recruiters. The way he challenged me and said, "Oh, I don't think you can do it. Only the best of the best can become a Marine." I'm like, I'm the best, and I'm about to prove you wrong. You want to doubt me? Then let's go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's always fueled my fire throughout my life. Like, if someone tries to doubt me, that okay, I'm gonna overachieve, not underachieve in life.
What do you have a good experience with your recruiter when you went to, sign up at the Marine? Like, did you just walk in like, hey, I'm going to be a Marine? What's up?
He recruited me because I was a stand-on ROTC. I started really honing my skills about my junior year when it came to like leadership, command presence. Right. I was in drill teams, did a lot of extra activities, did different drill meets throughout the state of Florida. And I really enjoyed the culture of structure and leading. You know what I'm saying? That's something that I think that was just innate ability. Yeah. I was also working. So as a young man, I had a lot of leadership responsibility. And I was kind of above my age. And, I was working at a movie theater. I was a supervisor, kind of worked up to, kind of like assistant manager kind of roles. It was just, I was very mature above my peers. And I think that was something that really kind of set me apart. You know what I mean? Because I always looked up. My mentors are always the big brothers in the neighborhood, people that were doing positive things, that was always guiding me because they saw something positive. And that's what stimulated me. And again, meeting my ROTC instructors, 2 African-American ones that served 20 plus years each in the military, Vietnam vets. Those guys really, implored of me that, hey, there's opportunity. You have opportunity to be great. Go out there and pursue it. Yeah. And don't allow the conditions of the community drive you in a bad place. So that's what really challenged me. So that recruiter, his uniform, the way he stood apart, that swagger that us, Marines carried himself, and then that dress blue uniform. He's like, hey, you want to earn one of these? I'm like, hell yeah. What's the blueprint? You gotta go to Parasana. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. I said, well, I want that. Yeah. And you think you have what it takes? You damn right I have what it takes. Let's go. Yeah. So I was thrilled. I was thrilled to be the first of the family to represent the United States Marine Corps. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you go in? What time, what year was that?
1995, summer of
Okay.
1995. I graduated
All right.
high school 1995, and I enlisted. I think it was March that year in direct. What is it? What is it? Entry. What is it? That program, delay entry program.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's been some time. So I was in the delay entry program March of that year. I actually tried to do it earlier, but my mom wouldn't sign off on my paperwork. My decision was pretty much set going into my senior year that I wanted to pursue a military career. So at that point, I was driven. I wasn't looking at anything else but taking on that goal.
Did you have anything particular in mind you wanted to do in the Marine Corps?
Not necessarily. Just wanted out of Miami.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, just wanted out. A lot of my colleagues were played for athletics, basketball, football. A lot of my great friends that had a really, really set, good mindset as far as leaving Miami. And I was like, well, you guys going to college to play ball. I'm going to Marine Corps to become a Marine. Either way, we're all getting out of this community to go become great. To go out there and let's go do something great. And so that was kind of a collective mindset we all shared. We all kind of departed. My timing of departure was August of that year, and time with all the rest of my colleagues that were on their way to colleges and other things. So that was what it was about.
Well, can you kind of give us wave tops from, you enlisting to, how about do this from when you enlisted to then when we met, 2007?
Okay. So I enlisted and went to Paris Island, August to October. Graduated, obviously went off to MCT, Marine Corps Combat Training. Subsequently, 2 weeks after boot leave, just graduating and becoming a Marine, going back home was this exhilarating process for me, for the family to see that I made it. I did it. I was a squad leader, so I was able to get meritors, PFC, and had some success as a leader in boot camp where I felt like, okay, this is something I could really do. Once I left there, I went to MCT, Marine Corps Combat Training in North Carolina, did our weeks of training there. And then I went off to 29 Palms, California to become a comm center operator, communication center operator. So I was a communicator. Really old school equipment in today's world, but our job was to pull out message traffic, top secret, be able to communicate to the commanders throughout the battlefield, across the world. It's kind of our role. So we were part of that. And then that role changed into more of a cyber 4066 MOS, where we became more computer engineer type analysis type, entry level troubleshooters type thing, engineers. We was able to establish communication networks from a SAT communication down to the end user, no matter every time and place. So that was kind of my role there. I had an opportunity to go to 22nd Mu. So after I left MCT, I went to Marine Corps Squadron, Communication Squadron 18 in Okinawa, Japan. That was 96 to 1997. Had an opportunity to deploy to multiple theaters from Korea to Thailand to Australia, opportunity to mainland Japan. So it was a pretty cool experience. Really loved it. I remember when I first got to Okinawa, they're like, hey, don't unpack your bags in 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, you're off to Thailand for Cobra Gold. And then subsequently, it was this deployment after deployment after deployment. And I loved it. Loved every bit of it. You know what I'm saying? So left there, went to 8th Communications Battalion, North Carolina, Camp Lejeune. Had some great opportunities to deploy to Turkey, Syria, Canada. So I was able to kind of see different things there. Then I got recruited to the 22nd Mu because I was, overachieving and performing at a high level. I was able to attain a few meritorious ranks along the way. So after I obtained meritorious sergeant, it was probably about under 3 years or 3 years at the time. I was able to get a role at the MU as a communications chief there with satellite. I'm sorry, with our cyber team,
Yeah.
networking stuff like that, computers, working with radio men in the Navy, and had opportunities to deploy all over the Mediterranean, from Jordan, Turkey to Israel, Egypt, Malta. Really fascinating deployment. It was the first deployment we actually had female Marines. Female Marines and female sailors on our crew. It was a USS Bataan. So that was the historic.
Okay.
And not only was it historic for that alone, far as occupancy, right? Because
Yeah.
most of the time your MU deployments were mostly predominantly all male. So this is the first time we was able to integrate women onto the ship and do a combat deployment. It was also the first MU commander that was African American, Colonel Gaskin at the time, which again was just an amazing experience to work for his staff. I was part of the S6 staff that worked directly for him, and was able to get an opportunity to be mentored by him directly as a young sergeant, and sit in those staff meetings, providing him VTC resources, communication resources, and just seeing that dynamic of him just leading and representing people that look like me. It was it was just really amazing, which we didn't see a lot, especially during those times in the Marine Corps. So for me, it really inspired me. It really inspired me. Once I got done with that, I had got orders to Parris Island, South Carolina, to become a DI, drill instructor, which was by far.
Did you pursue that? Did you want to do that?
Yes, I had got flagged for recruiting and DI. Back then, it was kind of like voluntold because we had such short numbers. This is early, before 2000, late 90s, early 2000. So it was a big push to try to bring talented Marines, but some of it was kind of like voluntold. Fortunately for me, I got flagged for recruiting, which I was like, hell to the no. I want to be a drill instructor. And so when I got Hearst for recruiting and spoke to the drill instructor monitor, he was like, hey, you're the recruiter. The Hearst team is a combination of both type recruiters, right? They're looking for talented individuals, and they're just going to send them either way. When I had the conversation with the Hearst team for recruiting, I was like, listen, I want to be a drill instructor. So, well, you're like a poster board for recruiting. You're a high achiever, meritorious sergeant, blah, 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 blah. You've overexceeded expectations throughout your career. Like, you're exactly what we need in recruiting. Recruiting is a little more demanding. Be billet, okay? Special assignment. I said, no, I want to be a drill instructor.
Yeah.
That's where I want to do. And I was able to make a very compelling argument, and they changed their mind and sent me down to Parris Island. Well, initially I was supposed to go to San Diego, MCRD San Diego. I was pushed out of Camp Lejeune, and they was going to send me to San Diego, which I was actually excited about. And then, long story short, they changed my orders to Parris Island. They had a greater need for Parris Island drill instructors. So that's where I ended up at. Went to DI school summer of 2000, and subsequently had a phenomenal career. Was meritorious and promoted to Gunnery Sergeant. Couldn't imagine that opportunity to present itself. Had some adversity there. Okay, at one point in time, I was pending a summary court-martial for false allegation of recruit abuse. Yep, and I was able to persevere through that adversity. It was funny because I got sat down basically on administrative discipline hold, so I could no longer train my platoon due to these allegations of abuse, which ended up being false. And my promotion to staff sergeant, I was a below zone selection to staff sergeant in under 6 years, which was, again, a tremendous accomplishment that I never saw coming. Just didn't work, right? So I was a below zone, so I was like the second, probably the third or fourth out of that promotion board to get selected at the bottom, right? And with that said, now I saw a naval message traffic saying that my promotion to staff sergeant was in abeyance, and I had to wait almost pretty much a year to pin it on because I was at the bottom of the below zone.
Yeah.
And a month before my preceding promotion, it was the month of May, I got sat down. My promotion date was June, and it was devastating. Yeah. Devastating. And probably one of the lowest points that you could have in a career, where I was just killing it. And it taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about betting on myself. Taught me a lot about who's really on your team, who's not. The jealousy
Yeah,
of others.
especially when you're innocent.
Absolutely. I
Oh,
saw a lot of
yeah.
that. I had a lot of sea lawyers in my ear, but I
Yeah.
trusted my gut. I got me a really great attorney, and we fought, and we was able
Yeah.
to get that entire situation set aside. My actually company commander stepped up, set aside it went from a battalion court martial down to company level. The company commander knew I was a great Marine, that this was some kind of bogus stuff. And long story short, I was exonerated, pinned on staff sergeant, subsequently a year later, meritorious gunnery sergeant. So you just have to continue to just, you know what I mean? Keep
Yeah.
doing the work. Don't let any of that set you back. And it taught me a lot about myself, that no matter what adversity in life, you can persevere and
Yeah.
just keep doing the work. So left there, meritorious gunnery sergeant, and end up at Norfolk, Virginia. Did a quick stint there because I got volunteered to come up to OCS. So I was there from 03 to, but really actually, 03 to 06, early 06. I did under 18 months between leave and everything else and relocating. Got because of the big push of us fighting two wars simultaneously, Iraq and Afghanistan, and part of that surge push, which you were a part of. They brought in Parasite and San Diego drill instructors to prepare for the manpower required to bring in a higher quality of OCS candidates through. So I was part of that push, and subsequently that's where we actually met in 07.
Yeah. So kind of pause there for a second, because I'd like to chat about your experiences. You mentioned a few different experiences when you were a DI at Parris Island, and I'd love for you to share any of them that come to mind, or the most indelible marks of transformations, leadership, good, bad, ugly, from your time as a drill instructor, creating Marines.
Yeah, again, being a Marine Corps drill instructor is probably one of the most greatest. OCS is definitely right behind that, where you have just tremendous lifelong, life-changing impact on the future leaders of tomorrow. I think the Marine Corps is a great kind of a blueprint, or just kind of a stepping stone, regardless you do 4 years or you do a career, to give you intangibles of leadership, discipline, bias for action, intangibles that can set you up for success no matter what you do thereafter. And being part of molding young men and young women, right? Because we also have opportunity to interact with female Marines, even though we had segregated at the time, we had segregated platoons, male and female by gender, which is no longer the way it is today. I was able to really see tremendous female Marines in such a dynamic light of respect. And it just opened my eyes to, when you have so many type A personalities, the best of the best that are down there, and you're able to compete against so many great role models. It was just a phenomenal experience, man. And it really made you bring your A game each and every day, because you knew the impact you had on these young men that you were responsible. I'm talking 80 to 100 men in the squad bay each and every day for 3 months. You're molding, you're building them, you're sharpening their character for greatness, to be able to go out there and serve our country with integrity, serve our country and sacrifice, and put, their own personal agenda aside to be a part of a team. And that team bleed green. It didn't matter what your political affiliation was. It didn't matter where your cultural background was. We're all here for one reason. To serve and defend and be America's 911 force. And I took that obligation very seriously. And to give you a quick story, some of the things that were amazing for me, especially as when I was a senior drill instructor.
And how old were you at the time?
At the time, probably early, the time I made senior drill, I was probably 22, 23 years old.
Wow. Okay. You're a young man.
I was a staff sergeant already. And, I remember my first platoon. Well, both my platoons were predominantly all white teams, right? And I was the senior
Yep.
drill instructor. And
Yeah.
I bring that into for your perspective because it mattered when it came to representation. And when I had young African American young men that came from the South that never been around, you know, white people in that sense in a squad bay. So the anxiety they felt there, and contrast opposite on the other end of the spectrum, and be able
Yeah.
to bring that cross pollination
Exactly.
was just amazing and extraordinary experience. And it leads to one of my points. I had this one kid, I'm not going to say his name, but I would tell you it's one of the most impactful situations I experienced. This kid came from Southwest Georgia, grew up in the rural South, didn't grow up around people of color whatsoever, had a lot of bigoted values instilled in him, was able to come to Paris Island, see through all the nonsense that he was raised to believe. And I remember when he graduated, he was a PCP recruit. So PCP is physical composition platoon. These are kids that are probably not at the most physical position to come into a recruit training company. So they're
Yep.
probably most of the time they're overweight or they're not strong enough to do the requirements of a IST test, which is our individual, I think what was it, individual strength test.
Yep.
And they didn't meet those criteria. So they have to be in this PCP platoon to get stronger, get faster, to be able to go into a training regiment. So I had a young kid that was probably 50 pounds overweight, couldn't do one pull up, but he had heart, Blake. He had drive. Something about him, my instinctual, right,
Yeah.
compass said, hey, this kid's got something. I
Yeah.
believe in this kid. Just the way his manners, demeanor, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the strongest, but he had heart. That's an intangible I'm going to bet on, Blake.
Yes.
I'm betting on this kid because he's got something. He just needs somebody to believe in him. And I poured myself in that kid, took the risk in taking him on. The kid lost over 70 pounds, became
Wow.
a tremendous war fighter. And I remember being on the squad bay during family day, and his parents came in on deck, and he's actually standing next to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Unbeknownst to their family, the transformation was so significant.
Me
Unbeknownst
too.
to his
Yeah.
family, they literally walked by him, and they were looking like we're in the middle of the squad, but they walked by us. And then the guy comes up to me and goes, hey boy, hey, where's my son? Right? And I'm like,
We got to pause here because it's
yeah,
like
sure.
people need to realize that you at this time and I meet you a little bit after this is like you're like in the prime of the most badass motherfucking drill instructor, like the quintessential the guy. And so unimaginable. Like my
Yeah.
mind, when you told me this, you've mentioned this before, my mind
Yes,
is just
sir.
fucking blown. Like, so sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, so he's like, hey boy, where's my son? And you could just see contempt and disgust
Yeah.
in his face, even addressing me.
Yeah.
And I remember the young man says, I'm right here, Dad, or Pappy, I think it was the term. And the mom and the grandfather was right there. And they looked at him and said, is that you? He goes, that's me. Yeah, it's me. I proved you wrong. I'm a Marine. And let me tell you something there, Pappy. This man standing next to me has been more of a father figure to me than you ever could be. He's taught me love. He's taught me to embrace all people of all walk of life. And that bigotry you taught me, I'm not that person, and I will never, ever be that person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful.
And his dad was like, how dare you talk to me? No, how dare you teach me hate? And I love this man. And you need to shake his hand. You need to shake his hand. He's done more
Yeah.
for me than you ever could do.
Yeah.
And that had me like inside. I had to hold back emotion.
Yeah.
But when you talk about a moment, bro, and that young man turned out to be an amazing Marine. I think he ended up doing 4 or 5 years. I think he was in the aviation community. We stayed in touch a couple years thereafter. And I'm just so proud
Yeah.
of the young man he's became. So when you talk about like profound generational like change.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, man, Blake, it doesn't get any better. And I have a litany of different stories, but I want that one to be something that, again, man, what I'm all about, humility and humanity,
Yeah,
is something that we're
it
really
is.
missing in our country right now. You know what I mean? And that was one of those
Exactly.
light bulb moments. Right? It doesn't matter, right? Like it's just all about just just treating people with dignity and respect, and it was great. And I've seen it on the opposite end of the spectrum too, where I had young African American young men that had fear sleeping in the same squad bay because of things that they had to deal with in the South, and the teaching them compassion and opening their hearts that yes, I know you went through these things, but open your heart because you could be great.
Right.
And love is what should be the compass for success. Don't let the fear or hate or the past drive you to have a disdain towards these people. Let's embrace it. And that's why we're here. We're all one team.
Exactly.
So the magnitude of that responsibility as a senior drill instructor, subsequently as a OCS platoon sergeant, is
Yep.
what I was always about.
Yeah.
Building that bridge and hoping to be able to change the hearts and minds of young men in a
Oh,
positive way.
I know you did. So it's like, yeah, I feel it. I knew that when you guys marched out, I was like, and then there's the beginning interaction where, and when I spoke with Lamberto, I talk about how I don't know if you watched the scene, but
I
Lamberto, you
saw
had
it, yeah.
called, you called him and then he comes down and I'm like, oh, this motherfucker, this is the bar now. Shit. And I know that he knew you guys understood each other. And so I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the bar. And so,
Wait, real
but
quick, Blaine. You stood out to me because of your self discipline and your command presence day one. I remember I asked you, I was like, are you a prior?
yeah,
Because you don't
yeah.
see, you could pretty much tell kids out of college, but you were built different day one.
Well,
Like you
thank
had
you.
me on the radar. And I think I told you that. If I can recall,
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
had a conversation with you
you
about your
did. And
background.
yeah. And I remember that. And then it's more important to me. And what stuck with me is that at some point we're weeks in, and then you come up to me and maybe you say this to all the guys, but where you're like, Blake, you got the it factor. And I was
No,
like,
I don't say that to all the guys.
all right,
No,
all right.
I say it to the
But
exceptional few because you
well,
had it and you
that
still,
right, because
yeah, you possessed it.
I needed a little bit of because I either wasn't doing good on tests or whatever it was, and I
Yeah.
was up at night, and I was like, okay, yeah, again, that tiny, it's like you're not like throwing that out like but like that time is like, okay, that does it, that goes fucking
Yeah.
miles
Yeah.
in that type of an environment.
Yeah.
um and that was important for me because I'm like, hey, am I doing good, because you
Yeah.
don't have a lot of feedback. It's mostly
Right.
negative and
Right.
and where you're just like, do it again, no, yeah,
Yeah.
um so that was I remember that. And so um I know I kind of digress right now, but but I think the story you just told is, I think, so fucking important. And that's the thing, the common bond. And I think that's like being a veteran and military Marine.
Yeah.
Like there is this common thread. If you look, it's there.
Yeah.
And like to be able to have the opportunity to change a mind that was kind of literally bred to
Yes.
just see a color of another man and think that it's bad, it sucks, it's
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And then to change that is, I don't know, like that's incredible and
Yeah.
special. And I think that you got that at a really young age to have those types of
Right.
experiences. And then, and I think that, all of your platoons that you even did through OCS, that resonated.
Yeah.
And because I could feel that to some degree, that you were a little bit different, although Staff Sergeant Ream, at the time, they were good guys. And
Yeah.
also Captain Hume at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like it showed through what you had in the background and what you were bringing to the table of like that
Yeah.
overachieving. And I think and I believe that everybody that has been through 3 months of either OCS or, this equivalent of boot camp has had that. So thank you. I appreciate you giving kind of everything, every part of your being and body and mind, body and soul to that, because it's an incredible effort. If people don't realize, of like the Marines or the candidates are working hard, but equally the guys running the show in the background are I mean, because they're just like doing it over, like cycling over and over, being kind of run ragged to a degree.
Yes. It's very, there's definitely a different contrast between recruit training and then the officer cannon school environments, where the physicality demand is way higher. Right. You guys are premier like athletes. You have top. I mean, these are the best of the best, overachieving young individuals that's had tremendous success their entire lives, academically and athletically. Right. I mean, these are the cream of the crop. So when you're on that stage, you can't half-ass. You got to come hard. No. You got to be able to compete. You got to be able to set a high standard. And I really challenged myself, even though it was a lot of blood, pain, sweat, and tears, to make sure I hold myself to a higher standard, to make sure I hold a beacon of leadership to you all, at all times. And that's something you got to bring your A game 24/7 around these. And it's not like you're not going through things, right? It's not like you're going through, missing your family. You're not going through pain. You're not going through frustration. You're going through all that each and every day. But once I walk out that squad bay, I got to bring it. Bring it, because the magnitude of the responsibility is tremendous. Yeah. Because of what the role you young candidates are going to walk into thereafter, right? Thereafter, you're going to be platoon commanders, responsible of men and women. And this is a period of combat. So majority were going to the fighting line within 12 to 18 months thereafter. And that's something I deeply express to you all, the reality of that. So if you're going to walk through that, if you're going to walk through our squad bay, there has to be, without question, any doubt in my mind, that you're a leader of Marines. Yeah. And you're going to put their welfare and their well-being first and foremost, and not your career and personal endeavor. Yeah. And you were part of that. You were one of those that I was proud of, that walked out of there, because I knew you had that character and had the intangibles to lead by example, not lead by, what can I get out of it, or my resume, or hey, if I kiss butt to this commander, I'm gonna, no. That's not. Those are the ones I got rid of. Those are the ones I didn't want. I want guys that were, when you stepped in front of the Marines the first day, you were credible, you were humble, and you were not afraid to be vulnerable, because that's when you earn respect. Yeah. As a young officer and as a Marine leader. So I hope I was able to implore and project that magnanimous responsibility, because it was on me. Credibility.
Exactly. It was. And I had some help along the way, but I think that certainly you were probably the capstone on, and again, I think that from your background, I think I needed to experience somebody completely different, somebody that didn't look like me, but then translate across every line. We're different people. We look different, but yet the same, we can kind of find the singularity. And I think that and that's why I say the capstone, that was like the finishing piece. Because I experienced, when I left from that, going into pilot training and everything, that I experienced a different Marine Corps in the aviation side, where I was like, I had a good bit of poor leadership, where it was exactly kind of the antithesis of what you're saying, where it's like, wait, how's this guy? What? This guy's here? Did he not look at the leadership books, or did he not read any of the books? Is he, what the fuck happened? And so, but that was the indelible mark. And so, I appreciate that, because it's shaped my, philosophy. I equate it to this as where the bad leader will come up, just, this is a generality. It's like, hey, hey, there's the pillbox, charge the pillbox. And with in open terrain, in us, we're going to be like, and I'm like, huh? I'm like, this guy? I'll be like, yes, sir. And then I go to I go to my bias and be like, hey, we're gonna fucking flank it and come around on the side because I'm not. We're all not gonna fucking die
Right,
because this guy's a
right,
moron.
right,
You know, it's like solve the problem. We're gonna accomplish the
right,
mission, but we're not just
right,
all gonna die for this
right,
guy that has no idea what he's doing.
right, right,
So still like mission accomplishment, but
right.
yeah. So that's I digress. So I wanted to kind of hit back to you.
Let me hit on that same point though. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
something that I think we, I implored on you guys too before you guys left, right? Was that, we talk about mission accomplishment first and true welfare. And I disagree with that, right? It's about true welfare. Take care of your Marines' well-being.
yeah,
Make sure they're they have what they need. They have the resources to be successful, and the mission will be accomplished. And I think
exactly.
as a leader, it's all about you creating a culture of success by ensuring that you put their success before yours.
Yeah,
Right? I don't give a damn about a promotion that I'm selfishly or politically trying to chase. I care about those young Marines having
right,
greater success in their careers than I ever was able to achieve. Our goal
right,
as leaders is to give them the blueprint to be better than us.
right.
And too many times when you see failed leadership, it's about their own ego they want to stroke. It's about what's
Exactly.
in it for me.
Yeah,
And that's something that I couldn't tolerate. And at times, just like you, I would undermine openly, or I would
right.
challenge them if that's what their whole agenda was. And I think as a leader, yes, we have to be great followers, but sometimes you got to be able to, leadership also is not to follow, right? Or question, right?
Oh
Or,
yeah,
or hold them to a
yeah,
standard if it's something that we feel is not something that's ethical, or you're not living, you're not projecting a lifestyle or projecting a command presence of
right.
ethics. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and what comes to mind is the Afghan pullout, where I'm like, why did the only guy that got fired was a lieutenant colonel in Camp Lejeune at the time, and then
Mm-hmm.
no other Marine, only Marines died on the exit, and no generals got fired. We left.
Mm-hmm.
We left $800 billion there. I'm like, what? I'm like, I feel like most Marines that are veterans now are inquisitive, to say the least,
Mm-hmm.
of like, what really? So the Marines got, so generals there also, everybody got promoted,
Right.
but right, I was like, what is up with that?
Yeah. And that's something
Yeah,
that's prevalent, I would say, within military culture. We see it all the time, the scapegoating,
yeah,
right? Those at above try to scapegoat those below, knowing
yeah,
willingly that you were in concert with their game plan. Or if they provided you opposition and why, you didn't put that into consideration until
yeah,
ultimately it did backfire, and it's just easy to point the finger below. And I
right,
just don't stand for that. I never stood for that. I couldn't respect that. And so,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's some combination of nepotism and then blaming the lance corporal for
right,
the
right,
general's failure. It is like,
right,
and it's like,
yeah,
who is buying that fucking
right,
line? I'm
right,
not, but maybe I guess other people are still. I don't
yeah.
know. So, on that note, then I'd love for you to kind of give me your thoughts on, your philosophical operating system, because I mean, you're a really fucking smart guy, and you've led men all over the world from OCS to like literally creating men, leading men all over all different situations. I mean, it's kind of an open-ended question, but I was like, do you have a philosophical operating system or kind of ideas that guide you?
Yeah, it's kind of what I talked about before, man. My whole motivation is just, again, creating a culture of greatness and a blueprint for those that I'm able to impact and influence, regardless if it's in the military in uniform or even out here in my community. I just want those that I'm able to, give my wisdom and experience. I just want them to do better, with that information, and, you know, push them to see beyond their own greatness. So a lot of times you can't, if I didn't have great leaders along my military career that saw something in me and
Yeah.
really pushed me along the way, like a really great coach that pushed Michael Jordan, right?
Right.
When he got, didn't make his first, his varsity team as a freshman or whatever it was, like, and someone still believing in him. And
Right.
that self-belief also drove his determination for success. It's kind of the same thing, right? Like, we got to make sure as leaders that we're pushing our young men and women when we definitely see that there's something there, that they can extraordinary success just by showing that you care and you love them and you believe in them. It's
Right.
no different what I do on the football field. I may have kids that are, may not be, the most physically gifted kids or most talented kids, but my goal as a coach and as a Marine, as a leader in general, is to instill in them a self-confidence of greatness. That's my ultimate responsibility, is to instill in them that you can be great. If you take on these techniques that I'm teaching you, and the techniques could be, do your, as a Marine, do your, I always use this thing where, and I think it works in life, and it's something I used throughout my career. There's a difference, and I'll use a Marine Corps example. There's two type of Marines, and I could say that's two type of people in this world, right? Either you're a pretender or you're contending for success. Okay, so let's use the Marine Corps as an example. When I gave the speech, no matter if it's at the Staff Academy, Corporal course, I didn't care where it was. I always like to kind of shape it this way. So let's say as a Marine, right? If you're contending your career as a young Lance Corporal or as a young lieutenant, be a contender. You're out there kind of like I'll use a sports analogy. You're like a boxer that's hitting the heavy bag. You're doing the speed bag. Or if you're an MMA fighter, you're working on your ground and pound. You're working on your kicks. Whatever that is, you're working on your trade, right? And as a Marine, you're working on doing your MCIs. You're working on being extraordinary when it comes to physical fitness and your preparation there. You're working to go above and beyond when it comes to your technical prowess, when it comes to your MOS. You're always trying to overachieve success because you're driven by that. And that motivation is also driven by those around you that you're inspired to be as good or better than. You're promoting them to be as good or better than what you are, right? And that's gonna coalesce amongst that team that you're training with, because they're gonna work harder to see you succeed. That's important. So again, as a Marine, I want to contend for that next title bout, which could be, as a Lance Corporal, I'm trying to contend to be a corporal. That's a lightweight bout. I want to win it. That could be an opportunity of demonstrating mastery of, again, technical skills. It could be an opportunity of demonstrating mastery in front of a promotion board. Meritorious opportunity. I'm contending to win that board.
Yeah.
Now I got that light belt. I'm trying to get the middle belt, which is maybe staff and CO. Eventually, I'm trying to be a super heavyweight, right? That could be senior enlisted. As an officer, that could be as a commander one day. You're contending. And even when you get knocked down, you get back up. You continue to rely on your training. You continue to rely on those ethos that got you where you are. And you never forget where you come from along the way. And that's your cultural background. That's your where you come from. That drives you also. I knew I never wanted to go back to Miami. I never want to let anyone say that I failed. So I'm going to contend throughout my career to be great. And I'm going to bring everybody along with me that's willing to listen. And that I'm able to influence in a positive way. Pretenders wear the uniform. They're neutral about success. They do the bare minimum, right? As a fighter, you do the bare minimum to compete for that upcoming fight. And when you take that dive, you're okay. You're okay with that because you got the bag. And that's something we talked about in the military. You had a lot of you might have had a lot of O3s out there, right? But not captains. You may have a lot of E6s, but not a staff sergeant. You see what I'm getting at? I never wanted that reputation of being paid at that grade. I wanted my identity to be the rank of that grade and the responsibilities. And I'm contending to be great. And I want everyone that I'm able to inspire to also contend in their career. Just like I want my young men on the football field to contend in every rep in practice. So when they get on Friday nights, they contend for their teammates. It's about that. Not pretend and just sit on the sideline and just cheer. Because then when I point at you and say, I need you in the game, coach, I don't know if I'm ready. That's the same thing we saw in the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you have an opportunity to get on that board. Oh, well, I don't know if I'm ready. I'll pass. Nah, I want dogs, not frogs, baby.
Yeah.
You understand that? Like,
Yeah.
and so I try to create that kind of blueprint in everything I do, even working with young kids in sports. I'm demanding on those kids at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old because I want them to be contenders when they get on the court. I want them to contend in sports. And that
Yep.
contending mindset also translate in the classroom. My football players, I call them game breakers. It's a philosophy, it's a mindset. Because what happens on the football field is bigger than the scoreboard on Friday nights, Blake.
Yep.
I'm trying to prepare them for the scoreboard of life. And being contenders in life, being fathers that contend, not pretend, being, civil community leaders that contend on change,
Yeah.
that have a bias to change for change, right? Like that's, as young men, you're contending in that classroom to be great. You're sitting in the front of the class. You're contending in the household. You're being a great sibling. You're being a great son, great daughter. That's what it means. It's a mindset. We're game breakers. And that's the same mindset that's carried me throughout my success in the military and life. It is the same blueprint I try to employ and instill in every young person or contemporary today. Okay. And one
Yeah.
thing that I do, and through my social media, as you follow me, is I'm trying to contend and also dismantle the negative narrative of Black fathers. I want to show you what Black excellence actually looks like.
Yes.
And you don't have to be afraid of someone that looks like me and represents that. And I want to
No.
see you beyond me being a Marine. I want to see you as a man, a Black man of excellence. And don't be afraid of that. I want the same opportunities of life for my children and my community. Most of the kids that I talk to every day don't look like me. So this is the first impression of what they may have been taught at home to fear, Blake. And I'm going to dismantle that each and every day by my own example of love, humanity, and humility. And that's what I teach these kids in the same blueprint I had in the Marine Corps. I don't care what your background is, man. I just want to see you be successful. I don't care your
Yeah.
gender. I don't care who you love. I don't care your politics. I just want you to be successful. How can I help? And if that means I got to defend you, I'm going to defend you too if you're doing the right things. And then when you all making a mistake, we're going to hold that character of accountability. Go ahead.
Where do you think that came from?
My grandmother, man. My upbringing, bro. Growing up with I said, can you hear me? I said
Yeah,
my grandmother, my heritage upbringing.
I see.
You understand? My immigrant upbringing, bro, that's under assault currently right now. Like that mindset was taught to me at a very young age. Okay? Like we had rules in the neighborhood. Like the street lights come on, you got to get in the house. Sundown rules was a real thing, reality growing up. Okay? Like these things, but it doesn't mean that we can't persevere out of that. Okay.
Agreed.
And the key thing is education. The key thing is making sure you don't allow that to keep you from becoming great and contending. All right. It could be an impediment. Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, we just got to strap our boots up and, why you can't, if this guy did it, how come you can't? No, every environment is different. And I don't want to cast that aspersion because the reality is what it is. But the reality is also is that, hey, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to continue to try to do my best. And I'm going to also, with my success, make sure I share that success so they can be better.
Yeah.
And that's what I live by today, right? Because we all have if we all had the equal infrastructure for success, we'll see that success rise in no matter what community. But that's not just a reality. But don't allow that reality to be a situation that keeps you back. Let's just keep pushing through and break through. Because our generation as fathers had done better than what our parents had to endure, correct? They lived through Jim Crow. They lived through a lot of structural, institutional racism. And we're not saying it went away, but we're going to continue to prevail and continue to do better, right? And I want my children to do better than me, right? I want them to continue to take that torch and go better. And even my failures, I want them to do better than my mistakes. And I think that's where it comes from. My grandmother instilling at me at a very young age, accountability, and don't allow anything to keep you back. Okay. And my parents also infused that, but my grandmother solely raised me with that work ethic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So kind of as you just said it there is like Do you have any failures that you think would be relevant to this conversation you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. I just felt one failure in particular throughout my career. I just wish when it came to my older children that I would
Yeah.
have been more mindful in spending time with them instead of being so enamored with my own personal success. With my success, in my mind, I'm creating more opportunity, right? The more promotions, the bigger house I could put you in, the more better schools they can attend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was kind of like my mindset. Let me provide. Let me keep my head down. Let me grind. Let me put the needs of the Marine Corps first and foremost because that's my job. That's the way I think we are engineered to define ourselves. And it was a mistake, and it subsequently led, to the failure of my first marriage. There's other variables in there, but I'm just saying, like, I wish I was more mindful, regardless of that outcome or not. I wish I was more mindful along the way where I wasn't trying to be the first one in, the last one to leave. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because of the
Yeah.
pressures of success. And because that was kind of like, right, like if you're not doing those things, then you're not deemed, you know, professionally, a
Right.
leader, I guess. And it's all bullshit. Like I bought
Yeah.
into it and I had to pay that price, going home to nothing, sleeping on, staying with friends on their couch because I had no house to go home to at one point in time, especially due to deployments and everything else. I had to get rock bottom on that, bro. Losing
Hmm.
my family because my perspective was always go, 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 put my hand up, raise my hand. Yeah, I'll take that responsibility. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Hey guys, I got to go TAD. I got to go here. I got to take this, when it could have been, maybe I pass on that, you know, maybe I make sure I make it to my son's basketball game or soccer game and, things like that are such important to me today that I
Yeah.
don't take for granted anymore. And I love I'm a proud, proud, proud stay-at-home dad. And I thank God, when I met my wife in grad school, it was a blessing in disguise. And
Yeah.
she's taught me more about being a great husband, being a great father, which is first and foremost my priority than any career.
Yeah.
So when you talk about regret, yeah, that's some of the regrets I had. And now in retrospection, if I could have done some things different and maybe not have achieved some of the meritorious success, so be it. So be it. So
So speaking of fatherhood, is like I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, you've done it pretty well. You have 5 or 6 kids.
six, six.
6 kids, all like the two youngest, the cutest little guys I've ever seen. But
Good
then,
genes, baby. You got good genes. Now they're all good looking. They're all good
and then
looking.
another four, they're all have success. Tell me about, from failure to maybe success, and but tell me about fatherhood for you. In the
Yeah,
Marine Corps,
man.
trying to balance that, and like
Yeah.
and just, but also having like loving children and like good kids. Like, I think it's a
Yeah.
balance. But tell me what you think about that.
Yeah. I just think, it took me to lose all that,
Yeah.
while I was still in the Marine Corps and then subsequently getting injured, right? And then recognizing that my career was coming to an end against, my own timelines and seeing how quick, you know what I'm saying? You go from a hero to a zero, right?
Yeah.
You realize real quick that you're no longer that guy. I think a lot of athletes experience that at the professional level, right? Like no longer
Yeah.
nobody's cheering for you. And now you have to
Yeah.
reinvent yourself. And on top of that, you're dealing with the crisis or you're dealing with, injuries and mental health, stuff. And, I recognized when I was kind of basically getting pushed out of the Marine Corps due to my inability to stay active duty and maintain active duty medicine is basically the term was used, and medically
Yeah.
retiring at a very angry disposition. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was the best blessing because it taught me that the Marine Corps don't define me. And I learned that lesson when I was in inpatient treatment at Point Loma for when we were in those, with those counselors, with a room of great men of all walks of life, SEALs, aviation, first responders, you know what I'm saying? Like all walks
Yeah.
of life. And none of our rank mattered. And I remember the one lady asked me, she said, hey, she said, tell me, who are you? I remember that question was asked to me, and I'm like looking around in the cohort, all these type A personalities, right? We're all guarded. We all got our chests out. I got Master Gunnery Sergeant rank here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Master Gunnery Sergeant Ross Blaine. She's like, excuse me? No. Who really are you? What beyond that, who are you? Aren't you not a father? Aren't you not a, husband? Are you not, aren't you this? Aren't you that? And I'm like, I had a light bulb moment, an epiphany, like, oh shit, like, yeah, I am those things. And this doesn't define me. That I allow it to define me for all this time. No, that doesn't define me. And I think having that introspection at that moment, that again, light bulb moment to say, you know what, I had this shit wrong, man. Like, I'm more than just that. And that's when I really decided, okay, I need to reinvent myself. I need to let my hair out, man, and not be afraid to just go out there. And I want that to be what people say, that you're a great father. You're first and foremost, you're a great husband and you're a great father. That reputation means more to me than a Master Gunnery Sergeant in the Marine Corps, right? Like that's when I decide that that's more important. And with that, I need to dive into my kids. I have to try to make sure I'm there for every, momentous occasion that I was able to do, because I've always was like focusing on career. And so I do my best, try to get to as many birthdays as I can. It's tough. My kids are older now, but they're going to get that phone call. They're going to get that text. They're going to get that FaceTime call, no matter where they are in the world or in the country. And I'm going to always make time to travel to visit them. I'm always going to make time for us to do family getaways. There's nothing more like being with all my children in one room, which is very difficult now. They're all adults. They're becoming adults. 2 in college, 1 on the way to college, and 1's a professional athlete. And I just want them to know, that I'm sorry for not, I always tell them I'm just always remorseful that I could have been a better dad along the way to be there. But at the end of the day, I am where I am now, and I'm just going to continue to keep working on being better. And that's all you could do. Just continue to contend on fatherhood, man, and continue to strive for greatness there. And make sure I continue to love them and meet them where they're at too. They're all unique personalities going through different trajectories in life. And you know what? You just got to meet them halfway sometimes, man. And sometimes my advice may not be the advice they want to hear, but that's okay. I'm going to always be resolute on my perspective, but at the same time, cheer them on if it's opposite of what I think. Because I got to allow them to be their own person too.
Exactly.
And be able to fail and not always try to fix it for them. And that's something I really push on my kids. And I love every one of them, man. They're what makes me go each and every day, Blake. As you know, as a father, man, like,
listen,
I always,
you know who Dan Bilzerian is? He's like this, listen, he's the guy with all the chicks on the boat, and you're like, doing traveling the world. And I look at this guy sometimes, and I'm like, man, that looks like fun, it's probably fucking fun. But but I am like, and then I think of like, and even, out here in Bali, and I look at other things, I'm like, oh, I could be doing this or that. But then I have just that moment, and then I pull back and I'm like, I don't know, being a dad, I don't know what else I could be doing to be like my higher self. What the fuck else could I be doing other than like creating humans? And what else? Like there's nothing. I don't think there's a higher, maybe other than being an OCS or a drill instructor, maybe. But yeah, I agree. Man. I agree with you.
This is the greatest building of all time for me, man.
Dude, I know.
What I'm saying? I love it, bro. I love to see the milestones. I love helping my son with their homework or their Mandarin.
Yeah.
I love attending my children's graduations and moving into college and just being part of that experience that I never experienced and living vicariously through them. My son went to his first college football game at Georgia Southern University. Shout out to Georgia Southern University Eagles. And I was just so proud of him, man.
Yeah.
He's an independent young man. He's out there making it happen. My son, Jaden, my daughter's in her senior year, finishing a year early out of college, pursuing her bachelor's in physical therapy, and subsequently will pursue a doctoral
Awesome.
starting next year.
Wow.
Like, these are the things that that my kids just inspire me, bro. Like, in a way that I'm just so proud of every one of them, man. They in this life of love, man, and they're my moral compass, man. To make sure they hold me accountable, right? They hold me accountable, and I really enjoy when I can have conversations with them and hear their perspectives and learn from them. And I think as a father, you know, it's important to hear your kids out. You know what I'm saying? Especially as they get older. It's one thing they're young and you got to kind of, you know, streamline a little bit more. But if they become adults, man, once my kids turn 18, it's like our dynamic changed. I'm more of a consulting now. Like, I'm going to consult you. It's not do what I tell you to do. It's more like, here's what I think. And, you know, think this through, think that through. But if it works out, great. If it don't, okay, we learn. I think that approach is, that philosophy is, it's a really way of them showing them respect as becoming adults. Yeah. You know, and they're going to disappoint you. So what? That's part of life. That disappointment is more for them to learn and us guide them through that and then help shape it. If they decide not to change the behavior, then so be it. But I'm still going to love you. Yeah. I'm still going to be there for you, and I'm still going to be your biggest fan. So for me, getting up every day, making my kids breakfast, driving them to school, talking to my kids every morning about being great, being a good student, showing self-respect to not only yourself, but to your fellow classmates. I always say classmate teammates. Showing respect to your teachers. Overachieving in the classroom, right? Be the one that's always putting your best foot forward. I don't care if you make straight A's or not, but just put straight A energy into your work. Okay? If it falls a little short, so be it. We'll work through that. That's okay. But just go out there and just be your best and be kind and be respectful. Yep. And be a leader, not a follower. And that's something I get to preach to my kids every day when I pick them up from school, when I sit down with them. And, you know, so it's just awesome. I think staying home dad, man, and then be able to allow my wife to go pursue her, you know, career ambition and walk and drive up through corporate America with tremendous acceleration and success. It's like the greatest feeling. And be able to coach her through, you know, different leadership challenges that arose in her career. Yeah. Man, it's the greatest feeling, bro. Like, I love it. And I want to trade it for the world, bro. I want to trade it for the world. And I try to make it look fun and sexy at the same time, baby. Yeah. Right? It's okay for us men to be home and make dinner and do those roles, man. Like, that's okay. Like, you know what? It wasn't something I was raised traditionally to see. Yeah. But I'm flipping the script, man. We could flip the script. Why not? Why not us be that main effort at home? It's not a woman thing. No, man. It's a team thing. Exactly. Work as a team. It's a balance. And I think that men need to understand that. It's like, that is a balance of like, who's, you know, like, how do you balance that? You don't have an ego about who makes dinner and like who's in the kitchen, you know, that type of thing. Is like, who can have the most success doing this? Like, excel, fucking go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then like, I got these things and I take care of these extra stuff, whatever. That's it. I'm trying to be, if we had like a award for this shit, I'm trying to be number one meritorious goddamn dad out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, find a dad's outdoing me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I use that, you know, in humor, but like, that's kind of my mentality, man. I take it with a bad honor. And it wasn't easy to embrace. Okay, Blake, like, there's times like, man, you know, and obviously I have limitations with my disabilities. That's, you know, it's a big part of why I'm not working. But I'm okay. It took me some time to accept my new. Yeah. And go all in on that. And again, there's days it's like, oh man, you know, when you got some idle time, your thoughts get to you, you know what I'm saying? You're like, man, I feel like I'm sometimes maybe lesser than, and then I like, wait a second. Oh, I got to prepare for dinner tonight, or I got to, can't wait to get my kids so we can go practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm able to like snap back in and say, you know what? This is a blessing. It's a blessing. It's not something that because I have young kids, college. Right.
I guess my last question, since we're just a little over an hour here. Yeah. Everything that we're kind of chatting about, and my thought, my opinion is, and why even I do this podcast, it, to some degree, my heart and soul goes into preventing veterans suicide, because it's somewhere between 20 and 40 veterans. You know, you could throw first responders in there too.
Yes, sir.
So it's even a greater number.
Yes, sir.
So something like 50 veterans and first responders are committing suicide every day. And it's an insane number. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because, everything we've just chatted about, I think builds somebody up to be, in some degree a Marine, and they lose their purpose when they
Yes.
get out of the Marine Corps.
Yes.
And they have their ego is tied to the Marine Corps. And so that's them.
Yes,
And they've
sir.
lost
Yes,
themselves,
sir.
lost their
Mm-hmm.
mission, and lost their purpose. So,
Yeah.
what do you have to say to that, or some kind of last parting thoughts or words?
Yeah, I tell this all the time, to our colleagues that are getting ready to retire. First of all, start planning your exit strategy, 2 to 3
Yep.
years out. Make sure you're getting your VA documentation. You got to stop getting your own way sometimes, right?
Right.
Like there's no shame to go down to doctor or go request for a mental health evaluation to identify some things that maybe you've been suppressing, because in our generation, especially mine before yours, we were taught that was weak. That was even at Paris Island, like as an instructor, like that's weakness.
Right.
If you show any empathy or compassion and I think that's just been the ethos of the Marine Corps of my generation. And you buy into that, right? It's kind of like how they are able to indoctrinate you, right? Where we don't,
Yeah.
if they wanted you to have a family, they would have issued you one, right? Like,
Right.
we're just war fighters and we kill. No, man, that's not reality. We're still human beings with hearts and souls. And I tell guys, men and women that are transitioning, to make sure it's about you when you're walking out. Have a exit strategy, okay? And first and foremost, make sure you document every, pain, injury. Make sure you get out of this mindset that like you going to VA, it's like some kind of handout you're chasing. Like, get out of here. You deserve. You done X amount of years in the military. You deserve every dollar, any compensation of disability. You deserve it. You should have 100% mindset. Okay.
Right.
And it's not like you're trying to undermine the system. It's just, no, you just need to make sure you document it, because you don't want that problem, because you're worried about your ego and pride,
Right.
come up and surface years later. And now you're out of an opportunity to get it service connected. That's
Right.
just ridiculous. Okay. But we've been taught that way, in the benefit for the government, to not articulate these things. So that way, at the end of the day, we don't have to compensate you for it because you never documented. And it's so disheartening to see so many veterans before our generation fighting teeth and nail to this day, from 90 to 100% or 80 or whatever they got initially. They have to fight years to get the compensation because of the fact they were programmed not to speak on it while in uniform. And that's something that I think that leads to some of the dissatisfaction and depression that happens thereafter, because that's a revenue source that's very important once you walk out of there. And a lot of them are masking these injuries, especially mental health, invisible injuries, and they're going into the workplace, and now it's surfing in itself. And now they can't keep a job, right? Now their finances are disrupted, okay? Because you only make it so much on your retirement if you retired. Right. So now subsequently you're in this world of hurt, and you're going through this identity crisis, and you're going through this, who am I? What direction am I supposed to go? So I always tell guys, first and foremost, please take care of that first and foremost. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't have a plan initially, right? Like that plan is going to be fluid, right? As you get closer to retirement. But the number one thing you need to do is make sure you're documenting everything. So as you're transitioning, you are going to receive the compensation you need out the door. That's first and foremost, because that's a revenue stream that's important, very important. Second thing, find your true passion. Find your true passion. Now, maybe it might be something you're going to have to evolve into, but that's okay too. What I see a lot is so many of us veterans, we just go back to our comfort zone of government work or maybe NRTC. Now, I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm not saying that's great. But for a lot of them, it's just you're doing something that you're comfortable. It's okay. Just like it was when you joined the military coming out of high school or college.
Yeah.
That was an uncomfortable decision point or crossroad, right?
Right.
And you had to make something of yourself once you got into the institution. It's no different when you're transitioning out of the institution. It's almost like a form of recidivism where you have to go back to a government or some entity to feel connected. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's awesome for those that need that. But I'm also saying it's okay to go out there and leap out on faith and try something completely unorthodox. I have buddies that are joining bands, that are artists, that are doing things that maybe they suppressed their entire life to wear this uniform. and now they have fear of jumping back into it. No, man, bet on yourself like you did. That got you where you are today.
Right. Yeah. The
And that's
obstacle is
okay.
the way.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Go live, go travel, go do the things that might have been obstacles when you were in that uniform. Go experience those things now.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. I've done skiing. I've done a lot of sports that I would never imagine, especially from a cultural perspective, bro.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm on that mountain skiing with my ski bike and my, disabled stuff, stuff that allows me to do those things. And it's like the proudest moment being on top of that mountain, man.
Yeah.
And representing my culture, representing, what I'm saying, something that people that look like me would never even dare to experience. But now I can be a role model to them as even fellow veterans
Right.
to say, let's get on top of that mountain, man. Let's traverse it. Let's feel that wind blowing through our hair. It's spiritual for me, man, to be able to go out there and challenge myself. Go out there and whitewater raft with my children. Something I never would have experienced back in Miami, right? Like go out there and just do things that give you a spiritual endeavor of love and just happiness, bro. And that's what I'm all about it now, man. Like something I would never imagine when I was wearing the uniform. Absolutely not.
Well said.
And I'm going out there and doing it. And I love it. And I love to travel. I love to see all aspects, all cultures. When I took my kids to Italy last year, or even this year when we went to Canada, every year I want to take my kids out of the country and go see something. We went to Mexico this year. Like I want them to be able to ingrain themselves with that culture.
Yeah.
And love those people for who they are and embrace that.
We'll come out to Bali next.
Yeah, we got to set something up, brother, for sure. For sure. I got a buddy out in Australia I got to go visit too. So my wife, we're continuing to grow our bucket list, man.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with me.
It's absolutely a pleasure to spend this time with you, Blake. And you're my brother. I love you. You're my brother
you too,
from another mother, man. And you're a great dude. I appreciate you always staying connected with me over the years. I'm so proud of what you did in your career and the life you have today.
Feelings mutual.
The fact you continue to contend and reinvent yourself, right? You're out in Bali now and, living a good life, man. I'm inspired by that, bro. You're an inspiration to me.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Cost of living is about like 1/10 of San Diego. So I'm just saying.
I don't disagree. Now, I love my sunshine out here. Don't get it twisted. I pay that sunshine tax.
Yeah.
Proudly. But, the thing is, I just have young kids. I have older kids.
I know.
It's one of those things where my wife and I definitely, I'm with you. Listen, my wife and I are definitely talking about a day when once we get the last two out to college, her and I want to move and maybe go out the country and live our best lives together, So it's something that we definitely talk about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. And it's been an awesome conversation. I look forward to our next one, man. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite, man. God bless you, bro. And Semper Fi, my brother.
Semper Fi.